Hey everyone, it's Ethan or Miist back again for another video today. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here again for yet another video. Today we're going to be talking about every movie I watched last week. And before we get into the movies, I just want to quickly apologize because I have not uploaded consistently yet this year. So I'm sorry, I haven't done a Funko Friday in a few weeks. And I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get back on track to do one this week for you guys. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Let's start it off with my least favorite watch of the week, which was one of the themes of the week. Night at the Museum. Kamen Rises Again, which I ranked a 7 out of 100. It is now officially in the bottom 10 movies I've ever watched. So, shout out to that. This franchise will always be memorable now for me for this. And yeah, that's not a great thing to really be memorialized by. So, fuck this movie. I hated this movie. I'm not talking about this movie. Let's move on to Emilia Perez. Honestly, pretty similar. Truthfully, the only reason I watched this movie is because Mel and I watched the Golden Globes last Sunday. And this was the most nominated movie. And I think it won the most awards as well at the Golden Globes, which, after watching this movie and the quality of this movie, it's fucking insane. Fuck no. Don't want to talk about this movie either. 15 out of 100. So let's move on to quite a big jump, actually. At Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, which Dan Stevens is in. So that's iconic. Not too bad. Patrick Sabongui, I believe, is also in this one. And Hugh fucking Jackman. What a cast. Crazy cameos. Anyways, yeah, it was bad. 32 out of 100. A lot of this movie, I felt, especially more so than the first, had like 3-minute skits or sketches that were just comedies and riffs that I just didn't like at all. Like, I had a really, really bad time with, so didn't enjoy those. Let's move on to The Jungle Book, which I also did not enjoy, believe it or not. A 36 out of 100 for the original Jungle Book. I had no pleasure watching this movie at all. I didn't think it was really good at all. Yeah, I just don't really have much to say about this movie. I did not enjoy this movie really at all. So 36 out of 100, which is funny because its predecessor, Jungle Book, in 2016, I enjoyed a little bit more, and I will say I enjoyed it more than I didn't, but barely. I only ranked it a 54 out of 100, and I've never actually seen this movie before, but I have vivid memories of one of my best friends, especially in high school, when this came out in theaters. I think he's seen it like 3 to 5 times in theaters. He absolutely loved this movie, but just not for me, man. I just really did not enjoy it. I ranked it a 54 out of 100. Let's move on to Cowboys and Aliens. And another theme of the week was Jon Favreau movies, obviously with The Jungle Book and then Cowboys and Aliens. I did Chef, another movie you'll see later on in this week. But last week I had done Chef and The Lion King. So kind of going through his filmography. I'm only missing his debut film now, which I'll probably rent at some point. Anyways, Cowboys and Aliens was fine. 56 out of 100. 59, sorry. My bad. Let's move on to where the movies start to get a little bit decent. So starting it off with Night at the Museum. A very, very cool concept come to life, literally. But I just don't think it's that good or interesting. Like, it's okay. I don't think it's very funny either. I find Ben Stiller's comedy is really hit and miss for me. I think he's hilarious in Dodgeball, but like Zoolander and Night at the Museum, I don't really enjoy his comedy a whole lot. So, I haven't really seen a whole lot of Ben Stiller comedies, but I'll have to kind of get more into that, I guess, maybe this year. So, 61 out of 100. Let's move on to Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, which is actually number 2, and it's my favorite of the Night at the Museum franchises, which is kind of weird. I didn't really think it was going to be number 2. I'd assume the original would have been the best or my favorite, but no, I didn't really love any of these movies. All 4 of them were quite disappointing, really, and my highest out of the 4 is a 64 out of 100, so not great by any means, but I definitely had a good time with this one, I'd say, more than the others, that's for sure. Let's move on to another theme of the week, which was Shrek, starting it off with Shrek 4, which is my least favorite Shrek Forever After. And probably could have waited to watch these till next year, but I've been wanting to show Mel these movies for the past few months, so I'm glad I finally got a chance to do it and get around to it. And yeah, we watched all four of them this week, and I feel like Mel ultimately did enjoy them, which I'm happy about, because I wasn't really sure if she was going to enjoy them. I felt like she was probably going to think they were weird, which they are kind of weird. They're quite fantastical, they're super fantasy, mythical creatures and fairy tales. It's just a lot of fun. I love the Shrek movies, mostly the first two, and actually I enjoy the third and the fourth a lot more than I ever remembered. So the fourth actually getting ranked to 69 out of 100 is not bad. So yeah, 69 out of 100 for the fourth. We literally just finished it. It's going to be my last movie of the week. So yeah, honestly, it wasn't that bad at all. Almost good, I would say. Well, let's move on to Shrek the Third, which I ranked a 71 out of 100. Love the princess politics in this movie. Again, same thing. This was a lot better than I remembered. Charming is honestly a pretty great villain, even though he's not a great villain. Like, he's not great. He's just funny, and I quite like Charming. So, definitely some good stuff here as well, I think. At a 71 out of 100. Let's move on to Zathura, A Space Adventure, which has actually become one of my favorite Jon Favreau films, ranked a 76 out of 100. So that's pretty surprising. It's nothing too great, but I had a pretty solid time with this movie, and I really enjoyed it, actually. More than most and more than what the average says. I don't think the average on this movie was very high, so yeah, I enjoyed it a decent amount. I remember watching this as a kid, and I won't lie, I don't really remember anything from it, to be honest, but I know I've seen this as a kid, so it's been probably 15 years since I've seen it, if I had to guess, but yeah, I had a decent time with it, and I enjoyed it. 76 out of 100. Let's move on to what is now the top 5, and definitely the quality of these movies goes up quite a lot. Onto The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I ranked an 84 out of 100. I didn't get to watch this movie in one sitting, which I fear is probably my biggest regret about watching this movie, because I did find it quite long, especially not having watched it in one sitting. I felt like it was quite long. This is a movie I'd like to rewatch in one sitting, but yeah, I felt like it was quite long, which, it is long, and I watched, I guess, technically the director's extended cut or whatever it is, the 3-hour version rather than like the 2.5-hour version. So yeah, it was definitely good though for most of the movie, and then the final like half an hour, I'd say, was absolutely great, and a tremendous ending that I really, really, really loved. I loved the ending, and this score has honestly become one of my favorite scores. I feel like this score is literally amazing. It's monumental, and it lasts. It seems like it's going to last forever as well. So that's very iconic. Great stuff here, really. There's not really anything I can say to add to the conversation about this movie. Let's move on to finally finishing the Harry Potters. Mel and I started this with our friends back in October. It's been about 3 months. Never got to finish them in the year 2024. So finally get to finish them. We had a double feature yesterday, or at the time of recording, Saturday. And we watched part 1 and part 2 of Deathly Hallows. I still prefer part 1, which I know I'm in the minority for. A lot of people either consider Azkaban or part 2 to be their favorites, but for me, I do think part 1 is just better. It's more interesting, to be honest. Part 2 is a lot of epic fights. There's a lot of fights. It's a lot of action, which nothing wrong with that, but we really don't get part 2 without part 1, and I love part 1. I don't know what it is about the movie. It's just a movie I love very, very deeply. Deathly Hallows Part 2, though, 88 out of 100. Deathly Hallows Part 1, again, I just really, really enjoy it. I have a great time with this movie. I ranked it a 90 out of 100. I did actually lower the ranking a little bit from a 93 down to a 90, but both of these movies are really just intertwined for obvious reasons. I mean, this whole franchise is intertwined, but definitely these last two movies, like they are just back to back, right? So, yeah, awesome stuff here. Really, really love it. Shout out to Deathly Hollows. All right, let's move on to the top two of the week, which is both both of the first two Shrek movies, I should say. Sorry, Shrek starting it off at number 2 for me this week at a 92 out of 100. And man, I miss this franchise. I miss this universe. I really, really enjoy Shrek, especially 1 and 2. 1 and 2 might become some of my favorite movies, some of my favorite animated movies, because they are both hilarious, and I'll try to stick more to the first one in this, or for now at least. But the first one is so unique, and it's so different. It's so out there, but it's so fun. It's so good, and I think this might be one of the most perfectly casted franchises, especially from our leads. Yeah, I love this movie, man. 92 out of 100. It went up a few points. I think it went up from an 89 to a 92, so that's a decent jump up to the 4.5 star now. Let's move on to my favorite watch of the week, which is Shrek 2, which again, it's really incredible. Like basically, I ranked it a 95 out of 100. I really, really love Shrek very, very much. And I was very fortunate enough where I get to show Mel Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life, because she'd never seen that before. So if you know, you know. That was a big thing in my childhood. Well, that sounds weird, but I just remember it being so popular when I was, I think, in middle school. But yeah, that's so iconic. Anyways, Shrek 2 is epic. It really is becoming one of my favorite animated movies on this rewatch. And I actually have it ranked the same as what I have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And I just watched that a few weeks ago, which also went up to a 95. This one from a 92 to a 95, I believe. So both the first two going up 3 points, which is nice. But yeah, all of these movies actually went up now that I think about it, I believe, which is funny. I didn't even really think about that. But shout out to Shrek, man. Love Shrek. Yeah, anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.